This just in from Dayton, Ohio. Chinese-based glassmaker Fuyao is struggling to produce profits in their ambitious first investment on American soil. I'm joined today with seasoned MSNBC reporter Jordan Sarnie. Jordan?
Hey Matt, pleasure as always to be reporting alongside you. This is truly a devastating situation for Fuya's chairman Chao Wang. His first U.S. location is falling short of investor expectations, and it's really a debacle right now. Folks, Matt and I have done some digging and are here to share the cultural context factors that have led to the firm's struggles. So, to inform all of those who are unaware of the background on the situation, Fuyao is a Chinese-based glass manufacturing company for the automobile industry, and they decided to purchase an old GE manufacturing plant to enter production on U.S. soil and prove that Chinese investment in American manufacturing can be successful. However, Chairman Chao Wang grossly underestimated the difficulty of effectively merging two vastly different cultures in the workplace. As a result, the multinational firm has been unable to turn a profit. Production output has been lower than Chinese-based factories, and countless complaints have been flowing out of the manufacturing plant with employee accusations of unsafe working conditions and utter mistreatment. Matt?
Jordan, just terrible to hear, honestly. You'd like to think a revamp of a historically excellent industrial city such as Dayton, Ohio, paired with the exceptional production capabilities of a company like Fuyao, would revitalize the area. However, the number of cultural differences have created a barrier that inhibits, overall performance and productivity. And at this point, I just don't think Fuyao's goal of bringing Chinese manufacturing stateside is a viable plan. Um, here you can see a few of the comments that have been made by Chinese employees on their American counterparts at Fuyao. Jordan, not some nice things. You can see here is slow, inefficient. I can't manage them. A comment on American lifestyle as general. You guys have 8 months off every month, only 8 hours a day. That's an easy life. And then lastly, a quote from the chairman himself saying, the point of living is work. A sentiment that I don't think a lot of Americans really truly believe in and incentivize. Just a very interesting mix of comments from them, Jordan.
Yeah, Matt, these are some real powerful quotes, and I'm glad you pulled these out to highlight them. So I actually interviewed an American protester at Fuyao who had this to say, and I quote, they, referring to the Chinese, get upset when we're all trying to figure something out. Everybody gets upset, and then everybody's upset in their own language, and then everybody just walks their own way. And we meet back here in 5 minutes. This really demonstrates the frustration that all these individuals, especially the American employees, have been encountering, and it just highlights the language barrier difficulty that's been going on at this firm within the walls, and that's not visible to everyone outside. But it's the language barrier is an obvious catalyst to the disaster. What's going on?
100%, and obvious is the right word there. However, the surface level differences between the groups are just the beginning. Here at MSNBC, we found that the root of the issue typically lies within the intense differences between the cultures. Um, to start off, one of the most challenging factors is the firm's inability to effectively manage American employees. This comes down to a multitude of factors involving cultural and professional differences in standards and behavior, with Chinese culture being a relatively high context culture and American culture being on the opposite side of the spectrum.
Yeah, and you're completely spot on with that. And they are facing countless difficulties with managing American employees. So obviously the cultures differ drastically when it comes to the factor of association. But more specifically within that is identity. So where China has a culture that demonstrates a collectivist mentality, the American culture is one just driven by individualism and our capitalist system in general. But given the tendency of the American identity to be rooted in themselves and their accomplishments, they enjoy receiving individual praise, as I'm sure you and I do as well. But this not only lets individuals feel a sense of accomplishment, it also demonstrates that their work is appreciated by superiors. But on the other side, in the Chinese culture, an individual's identity is rooted in groups. So individual praise is not commonplace or even expected of employees. With that in mind, The American workers feel that they're not appreciated since they are not receiving any verbal praise, thus causing hostile feelings toward management, reducing desire to work, and hurting productivity of the firm.
Jordan, that's a great point. Something I also want to point out is the difference in temporality between the two cultures. On one side, Chinese workers have an intense focus on achieving production quotas at all costs. They have little to no regard for safety hazards or personal liberties, often pushing the limits of both. Jordan, we visited a Fuyao plant based in China, and they were sifting through glass shards with no protective eyewear and non-protective
Wow.
gloves. Absolutely horrible. Reports from the Dayton factory stated Chinese employees were pouring chemicals down general drainage. You got to ask where that's going. This is all on top of the fact that these workers come in on weekends and max out their overtime, simply to save time and meet expectations. On the other hand, the American labor population refuses to meet these unsafe demands, as their valuation of time is perceived more on an individual basis. They do not value firm production over their own well being. I spoke with an American Fuya employee, and she described the situation as, quote, you have the Chinese who want numbers on this side, you have quality who wants customer satisfaction on this side. We fall right in the middle.
Yeah, and that's spot on, and I'm glad you highlighted that. And it kind of poses a question: what was Fuya thinking? Did they think about this? So I got to ask you, in your opinion, is this situation irreversible? Do you think Fuya is going to have to close up shop in the next few months and just call it quits? What recommendations might you have for the firm on how they might be able to turn this around, if possible at all?
Jordan, it's a tough one, to be quite honest with you. If they're going to be getting out of this hole, there needs to be a swift turnaround from both management and the workforce. I think there needs to be more trust from both cultures. Understand what each can bring to the table from a value perspective. I think this starts with the management team. It'll be beneficial to have a mix of American and Chinese managers that are representative of their cultures and understand the processes that work best. Together, they can come up with a plan that is ambitious enough for the Chinese and balanced in the right manner for Americans. In many of the scenarios we encountered, there's a general sense of side picking, if you will, and trying to pick which culture is right or wrong. I think by raising the general awareness of both sides and truly following under one Fuyao will allow for a more productive environment. Any effort that might break these divisive walls between the cultures, increasing the number of translators and bilingual managers, cultural workshops, even maybe purposely scheduling mixed lunch times to spend more time together will help boost communication and an understanding between the two. That's how I think they get over this lull, Jordan.
Yeah, man, those are some excellent recommendations, and I hope they really take these into account, and I really hope they're able to turn this situation around. But it looks like we have to go to commercial in about 10 seconds. But as always, great reporting with you, Matt. This was a great segment. Thanks, folks.
Absolutely, Jordan. Absolutely.